Hello everyone and welcome back to another Path of Excel 2 market analysis video. So in these videos we look at the market in retrospect, and from there we determine what currencies are worth investing into and what currencies are not. And to do that we'll be looking at a lot of data that if you haven't watched any of the previous videos before, you might not understand. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the comment section, or simply open a question ticket on our Discord server that's also in the video description. So to get started with what we are going to analyze, we first have to do the giveaway results for the last video. So if you haven't seen the last video, we were actually doing a 20 divine giveaway, which I announced would be for every single video, but sadly for this video we won't have one, though it will be still appreciated if you comment, like and subscribe. Because that of course helps the channel a lot. So let's spin the wheel for the last video's winner. By the way, we'll have the same giveaway. The next video is simply just that we do not have the liquidity right now. Raccoon 9684, you are the lucky winner of last video's giveaway. I will contact you in the video description and we'll figure something out. So, or the comment section, sorry, not the video description. So let's get started with the actual analysis, right? Let's look at some data. To do that, we'll be looking at this short-term development graph and we'll see what currencies have developed in what way. So we can see right here that the divine has significantly increased in value over the last week, and the chaos orb has as well. So if you have invested into the Chaos Orb, you are very lucky right now because the Chaos Orb has significantly increased in price as well as the Divine Orb. And that is due to a lot of players leaving the game or the player count simply being very low. That also counts for some other currencies, though in different kinds of ways. So for example, the Fracture Orb is kind of a currency that is only needed for crafting, but it's also a currency that also drops in maps, though it is relatively more rare than the Divine Orb or the Chaos Orb. So if we have a casual player that might not have a lot of rarity on his maps, it is not likely that he will get a lot of Fracture Orbs in his time playing the game. This will only be for players who have a lot of hours or simply have the right setup. And the same also goes for the mirror. Right, you can see the mirror down here. It has also increased a bit, but it also had a low recently. So these two currencies are very special in that regard, right? And that also means that if they are trading in comparison to the Divine Orb or the Chaos Orb, then they are kind of behaving in the opposite way in which these two currencies develop, right? The Chaos Orb, the Divine Orb, and the Exalted Orb, if they all go up, these usually go down. And from there, there's only one thing that can really happen, and that is that they go back up, right? So the only question is, when do they do that? And to determine that, we'll look at two different things. And the first thing is that the Fracture Orb has had a breach of structure, right? There has never been that much of a short period of time where it has decreased so much in value. And the second thing is that while these two currencies are very, very overvalued right now, you can see that by them being so high in comparison to all of the past data, that also means that these currencies, they trade at a lower rate to this currency. So that is what determines the price of this currency in the data that we have, right? And where we can buy it at. So what we want to do in these times is usually always the same. We want to buy a lot of this currency that is very low right now with a currency that is very high right now. And that currency is the Divine Orb or the Chaos Orb. So if you have some left over, get yourself some Fracture Orbs because it's likely that it will rise again. Though there is some caveat to that situation, and that is that this Chaos Orb has significantly increased before, and it hasn't reached the same decrease as it had an increase before, though of course it also did have a low before. Did that make sense? I hope so, because if you take the distance from the 100% line right here and you determine how much that is, that's like 20%, right? We didn't have a 20% depreciation of price yet, because that would be this line down here, and it's only at the halfway point. So it could be that this depreciates until this line down here, and then it only rises in value again. But that is just a question of if you're feeling the gamble, right, or you want to wait a bit longer. So for example, if I invest into it, or if the fund invests into it, it would still be about 6 to maybe 8 hours until we see if this rises in value again, and then we invest or we don't invest. And as I already mentioned, if we look at the long-term development graph, we can see that the Chaos Orb is gaining significant traction, as well as also the Divine Orb, which is actually surprising because usually it's further down in comparison to the Chaos Orb. But still, the Chaos Orb is the absolute best long-term investment, and I also believe that continuing on, it will especially be the best currency for long-term investment, since if we get another patch announcement, there are going to be more people playing the game, and the Divine will significantly devalue, and the Chaos Orb, I personally believe, will not. So yeah, that's all about the analysis. And there might be just one more thing if you are an investor into the fund, or you are interested in the fund, that we have to mention right now. And that is that we do not have as many players as we had previously. So the volume in the market on Divines, or generally any items, has significantly decreased. So it's significantly harder to trade any currency for some significant profit. And the icing on the cake is that the Divine Orb has now so incredibly increased in value, and we bought at before the significant increase, right? That we are kind of sitting on a lot of trades that haven't completed yet. And that is especially sad because there was a time where we could have taken 20%, 25% profit, but we didn't, because the prediction could technically have allowed us to go even further, to go to 25, 26%, maybe even 30. So that was really, really greedy on my part, and it was a really bad decision, right? We could have taken more liquidity at least, so we then could invest into even further currencies. But right now we are sitting on, as you can see, a lot of these orders. They are being slowly completed, right? This is decreasing more and more every single day, and there has already been one of the orders that has decreased in price. You can see I'm already doing some margin trading with some other omens, but there has to be a significant change in structure on how the investments are spread between the different currencies. And to do that, I have come up with some improvised percentages, right? These percentages are not based on any market calculation. So after this video, I will be looking at the different volumes at which these currencies trade at, which is quite difficult and also takes a lot of time, right? I have to look through different orders, see how many divines are offered, and calculate on how many divines are in each category, right? So I will take some time to do that in a minute. I just wanted to get this video out for you, but these are the percentages we'll likely be looking at, just from the personal experience, how the volumes are separated between the different categories, right? And what we want to then attribute to each of the categories in percentages of the total fund. And that is basically 30% into omens. It's only 30% because we have to leave some for margin trading, which could also include a lot of omens. So omens are only 30% because we want to do margin trading as well for the continuous increase in profit even without the investments. 20% into talismans, 10% into soul cores, and 10% into liquidity. And you can see that right now this is kind of different. By the way, I can delete this. This is kind of different, right? We have 95% into omens because of the trades that I just talked about. We have 2.85% in talismans, 0% in soul cores, 0% into margin trading, and we just have 1.4% liquidity. So that is really not a lot, and that needs to change, right? We will probably take a lot of currency from the liquidity, and we'll have to do some research on how these different currencies behave if you pour some divines into them, right? So what I'm talking about is how fast these currencies sell. So for example, the different talismans there are, the different soul cores, and you can see I'm already kind of experimenting a bit with the rabbit talisman and how fast it sells, and from there we can determine how to time these investments from the timing, and also how to maybe also increase or decrease the percentages that we want to attribute to these different categories. So these are the goals on the different percentages of the separation of the fund. So at least the goals that I expect will be realistic, right? I will do the math in a minute now, but these are the goals, and this is what we're at right now. And as soon as we get at least 20 to 30% back into liquidity, back into the margin trading, then we can expect some more profits again, because you can see since we did that trade, which was about the 22nd to 23rd, we haven't had any good increases, only this decrease, right? A little increase, another decrease, and a little increase, and there hasn't really been a lot of profit, which we had previously and we could maintain for a lot of weeks, right? You can see in the first half of June, or basically the first 20 days, we only had increases, and even quite large ones at that, right? 7.4%, 3%, 6%, 4%, 3%. They don't sound like big numbers, but let's say you had 1,000 divines invested, this would always already account to 200 to 300 divines. And that is at kind of the end of the season, right? There's not even that many players playing, so that was pretty good. And we need to get back to that and back on track and never get to this again just because of greed. And that will also mean that there will not be any more liquidity sweeps from our side anymore. So if you are very expectant on getting any information from that side, right? There were some people who asked if we are going to invest or increase the price of specific omens, and that was in the past possible, but right now with the player count and the price developments, it is not, and we will never do that again. And that is just the percentages that we'll keep to, and we'll see how much profit that nets us each day, but I believe it will be quite fine, right? Like previously. So we'll wait, TLDR, we'll wait until these orders complete, right? We still have about 2,500 omens, basically the whole fund, right? We have 11k divines, all invested into the Sinistral Annulment Omen. It's very bad, I know, but we'll get out of there, and as soon as we have some liquidity back, we will attribute to these different currencies, also do some more research, maybe try out a few things, and things will get better. I promise, guys. And yeah, that's just what it is right now. If you have any questions about that, if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section or on the Discord server, and I will probably answer you if I'm not really busy, right? There's been a lot of tickets on the Discord server of people asking stuff, wanting stuff. So yeah, thank you thank you guys. Jesus, I can't even talk anymore. Thank you guys very much for watching this video, and I'll be seeing you guys next one. I'm out.